Yeah, I should win just because you had the Timberwolves in the 8th seed.
Vasilevsky's been playing really well, and the Lightning have great offense.
Yeah, it was a tremendous shot, and I've come to expect it from LeBron. I would say I wish the best for the Red Sox, but as a Yankees fan, that's really hard for me to do.
The biggest addition to me is Jalen Brunson.
Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and that's all I have to say. He's still a top 5 quarterback in this league, and there's nothing really anyone can do about it.
Why'd you have to name him? Like, seriously. Thanks, man.
Who would have thought 5 years ago that the Clippers and Nets would be facing in the finals?
How is Joe Burrow going to get the ball to them if his butt is already on the ground?
Crazy. And for the fans at home,
hello, I'm Cy Mendenhall, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA Opinions of the Week. We talked about trading and just kind of was it going to be a boring offseason or boring trade deadline. As thinking about the offseason, maybe that's when Giannis possibly gets traded. I don't know if we see that, as it is kind of official now. They're both open to a trade, so it most likely is going to happen now or in the offseason.
In my opinion, trading him now is mandatory. The longer you wait for a player that has requested a trade, the worse the offers are going to get. Because you get closer and closer and closer to him just saying, trade me for anything. Like, I'm not going to play for the team anymore. So, if I were them, I would try to trade him as soon as possible. Now, whether or not teams are going to be able to offer what they want for him, that's an I don't know. But you don't want to put too much value. Look, I know when I say this, it's going to sound a little bit weird, but you don't want to put too much value on Giannis because you have to think of him now as he's not on your team, right? Because he wants to leave. So, yes, you need to get enough for him, but you don't need to be paralyzed by the decision of trading him when you know that he doesn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, you make a great point. And I'm trying to think of when it worked out. I think when I think of guys getting dragged out with like requesting a trade, I think of Kevin Durant and just kind of hold that. Like, it seemed to be a season and a half. They still ended up getting a good deal for him, I would say, from the Nets perspective. Suns, I don't think you got a great deal back from him. But the Nets, you got 2 first-round picks. You got Mikal Bridges, who you turned into another trade. So I do understand your argument for trading him now. From the Bucks perspective, I would say from a team building perspective, it makes it difficult if you want to compete now. Because I think you kind of saw that with the Luka Lakers trade, which of course that's different just how bad. But when you
you can't even think if there is no contending without Giannis theoretically, right? So that shouldn't be the frame of reference. If he wants to leave, then you have to reconsider and at least retool. Like if you can get enough guys there and maybe make a trade for a different guy later, but I think trading him this trade season is paramount to getting as much value as possible because teams are more desperate trade deadline time than they are during the offseason. It's just the truth. It's just in the offseason, I kind of want to see how these guys play. Like, for example, the Mavs. I've seen a lot of people talk about this. Let's talk about this very quickly. So if they don't trade AD, right, and then they obviously still have Kyrie, like, once you get to next season, do you not want to see at least what AD, Kyrie, and Cooper Flag look like? Right? Like, don't you want to see that? What were you going to say?
You do. And I think a lot of it, I was listening to someone talk about it, is that front office is split because there's no official general manager, and they haven't chosen one yet. So it's kind of a divide with people that believe in the Anthony Davis and Kyrie vision as an older group versus I think other people that want to move on and just get started with Cooper Flag. So I think that's an issue Dallas is facing, which goes to your point. Those guys are like, well, we haven't seen it yet. What does it look like? Could wait for the offseason, then not want to do it before the offseason.
Yeah, so those offseason deals are harder because guys are not going to – I just want to see how it's going to look, right? And that's a testament to, hey, let's just see how the season starts. But during the trade deadline, they're like, we can't wait. We need to make a move now. Like, we have to make a move right now. Because if we don't, then we're punting the season. right? If the Mavs decide, hey, we're really good. We start off the year 25-10. Okay, now we can make a move to help us contend now. But in the Bucks situation, you don't want to wait, in my opinion, because I think it allows too much time to go by, and eventually people are going to become dull to the fact that Giannis is on the block, and they're not going to offer as much as possible for Giannis. Now, I don't know what a trade package looks like. His contract is hefty, to say the absolute least, and I do wonder whether or not a team like a Warriors makes a move, because they do have some of those guys that you could add to a trade. But what is the offer? What does it look like? That's where I don't know. Like, what is the least you would take for Giannis?
Yeah, I think for me it's 2 first-round picks, but I was kind of more talking about for the Bucks, you want to do it urgent as possible because this is the season, this is the moment of desperation compared to the offseason, as you detailed that. From my perspective, the goal of trading Giannis is you're a contender. And I think when you look at teams in the past, if you're the Lakers trading for Luka, yes, it was a long-term vision, but it was also in hopes, okay, can we maximize this team right now? And from a team building standpoint, right now, to me, it's going to be difficult given that, yes, you're adding Giannis more for next year than this year. You're going to try to see what you can get, but I don't think it's realistic for you to expect to be in the finals in the first, after like a few months of trading for him.
Why is that?
I think because from a team building standpoint, there's not enough that you could do for that team to be great. You would just be relying on Giannis.
But if you're a team like the Spurs, for example, and you give up a lot but keep Wemby, I mean, if you trade, let's say, Fox and Dylan Harper in a first, right? Like, you still have Stephon Castle, you still have Champagny, you still have Keldon Johnson, you still have Devin Vassell, you still have a lot of guys around him, and obviously you have the 2 major ones, Wemby and Giannis. I find it hard to see that team not being able to compete. And then let's say the Warriors trade Podziemski, they trade Draymond Green probably for contract purposes, they trade Jonathan Kuminga, and they trade 2 firsts. Well, Curry and Giannis seems like a cheat code by itself. Like, if you could just have NBA level players on the team and then Curry and Giannis, that's a problem for any team in the league.
I see your point, and maybe they could go far, but I think kind of with just how well built some teams are, like the Thunder, it's not the East. The Knicks there's not like a strongly built team because of the Celtics dealing with injuries, but I think it's a lot for them to get to know each other, build that chemistry. But I think this offseason you could see, okay, where do we need to add? Okay, we need to get a shooter. You can go trade for a shooter, or you can sign someone to a minimum deal that is willing to come on that minimum deal. And I think just in the past, we've kind of seen those struggles happen with the Lakers, where they were built around Anthony Davis. And yes, you do have LeBron and Luka together, but you couldn't play too well against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Then you go, I think even 2 seasons before, you have Kyrie and Luka, where they were still figuring out how to play with each other before. You could also go to Pascal Siakam and the Pacers, where you had to extend Siakam. Yes, they did cause some trouble, but it wasn't to what it was when they went to that finals run.
True. It's Giannis, though. Like, I don't think it's fair to compare, like, Siakam with Giannis. Like, I don't think that's necessarily the same thing. And I do think that a team that trades for him can compete immediately, in my opinion. Now, whether they can compete with the Thunder or a really, really, really top team, sure, we can have those conversations, but contend, especially if a team in the East gets him, because of how weak the East is, I do think a team that receives Giannis could contend pretty quickly. Like, if the Knicks trade Cat and a first and probably something else to fix the money, you're telling me the Knicks with Giannis couldn't win it?
I think they could win the East. I just don't see Milwaukee giving them to the East.
I don't think they'd give it to their own division. I don't know about the entire East being neglected.
We'll have to see, but I'm not saying don't trade for Giannis, but I am saying there could be some teams that are trying to figure out what's the least we can give while keeping some key players. Because like I said in the trade video we did a few days ago, this is a weird market, I would say, to where I think normally you'd get 2 first-round picks for Giannis and a promising player. I think that's what I detailed. But it's how well can you go? Because some teams might go, we'll give you 1 first-round pick, maybe a second first-round pick, but protected, and then a promising player, and then a contract player, to where it's different than what it would be, let's say, 2 years ago, where Rudy Gobert fetched 5 first-round picks.
Why do you think that he wouldn't receive all that much?
Because I think you have the Luka deal, which, yes, that was a terrible deal, but people can still use that. And then you have the Trae Young deal, kind of with what Trae Young was a promising player. And he's not a bad player, but
I don't think it's fair to compare like Trae Young to Giannis. I think that the desperation that some of these teams will have, like again, the Raptors right now are a young team. Like if they try to go for Giannis, like I don't know if who the Bucks would be willing to trade him to, but I think that there would be more of a trade market. I don't think it's going to be a 1 or 2 pick trade, unless again it depends on the players that are at. Like in the example where I said Cat, okay, maybe that is a 1 or 2 pick trade because it's Cat, but if it's Draymond and Pods and Kuminga, I could see it being 3 picks, 4 picks because it's Giannis. This isn't. Like the Luka trade was, even if it is a bad trade, sure, but it also includes Anthony Davis, who was at that time a top 10 player in the league, unquestioned. But if a top 10 player in the league isn't added in the trade for Giannis, that is an easy 4 or 5 picks.
Okay. I think the market is in a different level given what GMs, if you're being a smart GM, you're trying to keep as much as you can. And
I don't think that's really the smartest thing to do, though, because I think sometimes GMs are too worried about not giving up that much instead of going after a championship. If you give too much up in a trade but win a championship, who cares?
Yeah, absolutely. But I could see them wanting to hold on to a lot of their promising players so they could put them around Giannis.
Yeah, but you got to get Giannis first. I think that's the more important aspect of it.
Yeah, and we'll have to see. But so what I think, to me, the lowest I would go is, and what I think ends up happening is 2 first-round picks and a promising player, and then adding a contract. What do you think is the lowest you would go, or is that different than what you expect happens?
Well, I don't know what I expect. I think the league has really made me wary of wanting to predict what's really going to happen with trades because the Luka deal, I think, has kind of trumped anything, at least in my mind, regarding that sort of stuff. But I would not go lower than, like, value-wise, would be 5 picks value. Now, obviously, there's going to have to be contracts in there, which probably takes a pick away. So, again, if it's Cat, it's probably Cat, Tyler Kolek, and a pick. Or Cat, Tyler Kolek, and 2 picks, or a pick and a second-round pick. But if we're talking, like, the Curry, Giannis, reunion's not the right word, but combination, I think that it's Draymond, Pods, Kuminga, and 3 picks is probably what the trade would be. Now, obviously, there's some cap stuff that needs to happen. Obviously, there's probably some picks that the Warriors may have to trade Moody to a team to give a first to whatever. There's going to be some stuff that has to happen outside of just the players I mentioned. But I do think that Giannis is going to be worth a lot because he's a top 5 player in the league, a perennial MVP candidate, and if you add him to your team, you're a contender immediately.
I support everything you say, and yes, he is worth a lot. I don't think the Bucks end up getting enough, but they do trade him. to where they don't get enough of that value back, given just how weird things are right now with draft picks and that value.
So, do you think he's traded this trade deadline?
I'm going to say no. I'll go off season.
Okay, I disagree. I do think he's traded this trade deadline because I think that his ability now. I think teams again want to do it now, and I think the Bucks will cave in as long as they're smart about it. I do think that now is probably the best time to do it.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what happens. As you said, it's hard to predict exactly what's going to happen in the NBA. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We appreciate you listening to Outsiders Opinions.